What's going on, guys? We've got allegedly leaked a script for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Take it with a grain of salt. And that plot is so wild. I have to do something before reading it. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, alright, let's go now.
But you can't do this to me.
I started this company. You know how much I sacrificed?
I'm still not sure where this leak comes from, either Reddit or Twitter, because everybody is reposting them. So anyway, let's just read it and see what's up. So number one, after No Way Home, Peter's basically a ghost. Peter Parker spends all his time as Spider-Man saving the city. Well, this is no-brainer considering the state that Peter is now after No Way Home. His best friend forgot who he is. His two new Spider-Man friends disappeared into their own universes. His aunt died, and on top of that, the love of his life, Michelle Jones, completely forgot who he is. So really, if you think about it, anybody would be in a really shitty mental state after that. So Peter is definitely struggling with anxiety, and honestly, it's not too hard to guess that this is how Brand New Day starts. Next, we've got Peter narrates a confession to MJ, only to himself, and believes she's better off without him. Same with Ned. Well, that applies to what I said previously. Big themes of loneliness and isolation. Again, that's what I said before. So far, this is like anybody can guess that this is how the movie starts, right? Alright, next, a quick montage scene of Peter beating up mid-villains. Boomerang, Tarantula, Ramrod, Chameleon, and Rhino. We heard about Boomerang, Tarantula, and Ramrod appearing in the opening montage, Spidey fighting bunch of villains. Chameleon and Rhino is new, haven't heard about them, any rumors before, but Chameleon rumor actually just recently, our favorite scooper Daniel Richmond said that one of the concept art that was spotted on the Spider-Man Brand New Day set actually featured the Chameleon. Well, can't say I'm too excited to see Chameleon, especially after Kraven, the Hunter movie. Let's not talk about that. Rhino thought maybe an organic costume, not the one we've seen in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that would be cool. Next, NYC loves Spider-Man except for Department of Damage Control, as they view him as something they have to manage. Now, I keep hearing rumors regarding Department of Damage Control. They will be pretty much hunting for anybody with superpowers. So it's like starts in Brand New Day. It actually started in Miss Marvel, I believe. They sort of transform into this organization which simply just hunts people with superpowers, right? And I heard the rumors that eventually they will be going after X-Men as well in MCU's X-Men. Maybe that's their organization that will eventually create these Sentinels, you know, to hunt the X-Men. But Department of Damage Control is clearly bad guys in Brand New Day. Next, Peter is avoiding his real life, only focusing on Spider-Man. This is super important, let's remember that, because what happens after that will be connected to this. The montage, I assume the opening montage, Spidey fighting villains, ends with Peter having problems with his powers. We've seen that before, obviously, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, and in the comics it happened as well. Next, we've got the more stressed Peter gets, the more unstable his power get. Guys, for the 100th time, I have to go back to that set video and show you guys this. Previously, I speculated that it's the main baddie messing up with Spidey and his head, maybe Shatra, you know, Sadie Sink, or somebody else, but maybe it's just really Peter is struggling with his powers, he doesn't know what's going on, and therefore he's super unstable, as we can see in this set video. He's holding his head, he's confused AF, so we'll see about that. Now, this is getting interesting. Webbing turns organic at times. He gets more aggressive and body starts changing. So, about that leaked trailer I talked about 2 days ago, guys, I talked about a scene where Peter finds himself in a web cocoon in the leaked Brand New Day trailer, but some people apparently with X-ray vision, they managed to make more sense out of that scene. Apparently, Tom is in a web cocoon and he's like naked or something, and then he jumps down and he shoots organic web. I don't know how, because the footage is so bad, you can barely see anything, but I guess people spotted it, So him having organic webbing, this is interesting considering his remarks to Toby's Peter about like, oh, how do you do that? How do you shoot organic web, you know? And it happened in the comics briefly too. The other story arc, if you're curious, happened early 2000s. Peter transformed into a huge spider and then he had new abilities. One of such abilities was organic webbing, but then it was retconned, obviously. I think the reason they did that is basically to line it with the Sam Raimi's movies, which were super popular at that time, but then he obviously got back to the web shooters. And in the leaked trailer, somebody also says that spiders are getting reborn, so who knows? Next, Sadie Sink plays Jean Grey, bingo, who's on the run because Department of Damage Control believes she's an unregistered mutant with uncontrolled power. Alright, we talked about it already. Jean's goal is to stay free and expose Department of Damage Control. This sounds super weird. Why would that be Jean's goal unless this Jean comes from another universe where Department of Damage Control already caused some damage to her fellow X-Men, you know? Why is she doing that? We'll see. And next, Jean sees Spider-Man as reckless. Whenever he appears, the situation gets worse. I guess Jean, being Jean, she knows about the spell of Doctor Strange. She knows that, you know, what Peter caused in No Way Home, all that crap. And even in the leaked trailers, she says, Spider-Man, you're a mess. If you stay on my way, not only your friends won't remember who you are, you know, something like that. So she's aware about the spell that Doctor Strange did in No Way Home and how Peter messed everything up. And next, she suspects Department of Damage Control will connect her to Spider-Man and use that as an excuse to hunt her. So she treats Spidey as a nuisance, as somebody annoying and reckless, you know, who might get her in trouble. Next, Punisher protects Jean because they work together. Now this is interesting because we've seen Sadie Sink before on the set photos, like one photo where she had a wound in her leg, like somebody tried to shoot her, I guess, and shot her, and then we saw a set video where Department of Damage Control basically ambushes her and takes her down. So why is Punisher protecting her? And why do they work together? I have no idea. Next, Tombstone is essentially the big bad. He wants the city unstable because he profits when the streets are scared, and Tombstone bankrolls the Hand, evil organization of ninjas, to hit Department of Damage Control and free Scorpion. So that's why Spidey fights a bunch of ninjas in prison. I guess that makes sense, even if it's a great guess. I can see it happening in the movie. I never thought Scorpion would be the main bad guy of Brand New Day. No way, he's like a B-list villain at best. So Tombstone being the mastermind behind everything, well, that makes more sense. Department of Damage Control is transporting Meg Gargan to a more secure location. Big convoy scene. Alright, we've seen the set videos and set pics of that. The Hand attacks the convoy on the highway while Spider-Man comes to fight them off. Punisher helps too. Department of Damage Control crashes at a prison where Gargan escapes. Again, this can be technically guessed from all these set videos we've seen, but it also makes sense plot-wise. You might be wondering why. Well, this will come out a little bit later. Next, after the disaster, the Hand storms the prison to release more prisoners. This is where Spider-Man fights a wave of ninjas in the prison. Check. Spidey has problems with his powers again, but Punisher saves him from the Hand and they retreat. We've seen one scene with Punisher in the leaked trailer where basically Punisher says, hey Spidey, I'm saving your ass. So again, this technically can be guessed from the leaked trailer. After the prison chaos, Peter's body isn't acting normal anymore. Again, that's the set video. Banner is the only person who can help. Peter's body forces a metamorphosis and ends up in a web cocoon. Again, from the leaked trailer, and again in the leaked trailer, Peter says, Bruce, you have to help me. Peter's emotions are causing this. Organic webbing occurs. More feral and extra limbs come and go. So basically he transforms into man spider maybe, or just like extra limb stuff. Now obviously this happened in the comics like 2 or 3 times, as well as in the animated series. Everybody knows that episode where Spidey transforms into big Spidey monster. In the comics, I believe the Amazing Spider-Man 100 is the issue where Peter is basically done being Spider-Man and he creates that serum and he takes this serum, but instead of getting rid of his powers, he's got 2 more extra limbs and it's pretty horrifying. There's one thing worth mentioning. Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of the Spider-Man Brand New Day, is actually a huge fan of the 90s animated series. So I'm just saying, you know, the guy probably grew up watching the animated series and he knows about that episode where Spidey transforms into a spider. You know, so far this sounds better than Sadie Singh being Shathra and maybe the inclusion of a Web of Life and Destiny and Spider-Man the Totem storyline and all that crap, you know. Sadie being Jean Grey and Peter slowly transforming into Spider because of his like state of mind, his mental issues, you know. I can buy that, but it would be pretty horrifying. Just imagine that scene, Tom growing up to a pair of extra limbs, you know, as long as he doesn't actually transform into Man Spider, you know, that can work. Next, Tombstone upgrades Gargan and sends Scorpion at Spider-Man to get rid of him for interfering with his business. Okay, that's super cool. Not Jameson who's responsible for the creation of Scorpion, but Tombstone basically financing Gargan, knowing how crazy Mac Gargan is and transforming him into a weapon against Spidey. That makes perfect sense. Next, amazing fight scene across the streets and building of NYC, but Spider-Man wins. Cool. Peter becomes unstable and in pain again, which lets Scorpion escape. Presumably for next movie, maybe. Banner's under insane stress from Peter, Department of Damage Control, and taps into a new personality, Grey Hulk. Why would Banner be from insane stress from Peter? Does he feel like Tony, like he failed Peter in Infinity War and he feels grief that Peter is now becoming like Man Spider? What? Why would Banner be from insane stress from Peter? Transforming into Grey Hulk rumors, yes, I've heard it before this week as well. Not the actual, not your Savage Hulk version, but the Grey Hulk version. Banner loses control, which causes Hulk to go crazy and terror the streets. Again, this probably leads to that sequence in Glasgow where Punisher and Spidey and the Tank are chasing somebody, probably Hulk. Basically, stress and emotional turmoil cause this transformation. Yeah, like I said, Punisher shows up in a tank to fight and try to save Banner. Likewise, Spider-Man joins and attempts to help Banner, and Jean returns and calms Banner, bringing him back to normal. This would be super dope, to be honest. Just when Banner is back to normal, Peter's stress is maxed out and reaches a breaking point, causing him to become Man Spider. Ah, that's what I was afraid of. Man Spider loses all human features and fights them. Jean anchors Peter mentally and helps Peter realize that he can't only be Spider-Man, but the human side is just as important. Once he realizes that, he turns back to normal. Bruce finishes the antidote serum and stabilizes Peter's mutation fully. I don't know how are they going to pull this up. Can you imagine, just again, I have to say, Tom Holland becoming a monster Man Spider on the big screen? Seriously, can anybody imagine this happening? If you can, well, props to you. Jean goes on her way, thanking them for trusting her. She returns in Secret Wars. And finally, Peter finds MJ and her boyfriend, Harry Osborn. So far, the only thing I heard about Harry Osborn is that Joe Carey might be playing him, but that rumor was so far-fetched, I'm not sure about it. He tells her everything that happened from No Way Home, the narration from the beginning of the movie. Peter understands he can't just be Spider-Man, Peter is just as important. Ned appears too. So it's like Michelle Rodriguez remembering, sort of remembering who is dumb in Fast and Furious, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me? It's like they don't remember who Peter is, but they kinda remember who he is. And finally, post-credit scene includes the Symbiote. Tombstone meets an unknown buyer in a quiet, dark hangout. The buyer slides a sealed vial across the table. Inside is the Symbiote. Tombstone looks at Scorpion, hinting at McGargan getting the Symbiote first. I'm not a fan of this. If this is real, I said multiple times, I want Spidey to fight Symbiote on the battle world, just like in the comic books in Secret Wars. Now, guys, that's the leak. Lots of this stuff stuff, like 80% can be guessed from the leaked trailer, can be guessed from the set videos, especially, you know, it's very convenient how this leak came out 2 days after the trailer leaks. And if it's real, I'm not happy about the man spider thing, and I'm not happy about the symbiote, and I'm not happy how it ends. There's no way it ends like that, because we heard multiple times rumors that Brand New Day will end on a note that will lead to Secret Wars. There's a reason Peter is not in Doomsday, you know? At least Tom Holland's Peter. And don't tell me he's recovering from that experience being a man spider, so Spider-Man doesn't participate in the Doomsday event. Spider-Man is not like that. Spidey will do whatever it takes, you know. He's not that type of guy that will stay in shadow and recover. So the ending should be tied up to the Secret Wars. Guys, what do you think about this leak? Tell me, do you like any of the plot points mentioned here, and do you think it's real or just a guess? Stay tuned for more news, guys, and I'm out for now.